Okay, so we were doing May-June 2025 paper 4.1 and we have to do question 2 next now. So question 2 is a file handling question. In this question we are supposed to read a file and then split it and then extract the data out of it. So we are given some source file here as well. The question says that the program will read data from text file and split the data into its contents and store it into separate files. So the text file contains 72 lines of data. So we should open that file, the data, and yes, it does have all 72 lines. So there's a number and then there's a comma and then there's a color. So the question says that for each line, this is a format, the integer is 10 and the string is red. So the file contains 6 different colors, red, green, blue, orange, yellow, and pink. We have to write a function that will read the data, which will prompt the user to enter a file name. So we have to take input and then reads this file name from the user. Then we have to open that file and read each line of data into a 1D array, and then we have to return the 1D array. So that is the first part that we have to do. So again, we are supposed to open the data and then we are supposed to ask the user to give a file name, and then we're going to open and read each line of data into that 1D array. So all of this data will go inside a 1D array, and that 1D array will have a size of 72 values, and then we will return that populated value. Okay, so first of all, we have to write the function read data. So we'll define read data like this. And then the question says we have to ask the user to input a file name and read this file name from the user. So let's call it f is equal to input, enter file name. And then they're saying that we have to open this specific file and then we are going to read each line of the data into a 1D array. So we have to open this file now. So we'll say, let's call it f name. So f is equal to open this file name and we have to open it in read mode. Then we have to close the file eventually. Okay, in between this we have to read all the lines of the file. So we'll use a simple for loop. So there are two methods. Either you can do it this way, f is equal to, or you can say contents is equal to f dot read. So this will get you the whole contents of the file as a string. So all of the values would be converted into a string. Okay, so this would all be returned as a string, and then you will have to apply the split function on it so that every line can be converted into a 1D array depending on where the line break was happening. So /n is the line break, and then we can access the value from each array by looping through contents. This is one method, or the other method is simply to use the for loop. So we'll use for line in f, and if we print line dot strip like this to remove the spaces. Okay, let's quickly test if it is working or not. So this would be our main function, read data like this, and if I run it, if I give the ddata.txt, so yes, it does print all the lines in the file successfully. And please make sure that you remember that the data is supposed to be case sensitive. So T is capital and D is capital. So if we misspell the name, it would not work. If I input the data.txt, it is still, okay, it converted to lowercase on its own. Okay, that is fine. So, but again, we have to take care of case sensitivity just to make sure that the data matches. So all of the data is here. Now in the next part, what we have to do here is that we have to read the line into a 1D array. So we'll create a 1D array. Let's call it contents, and it should be empty initially. And then every time we read a line, we just add this into our contents array. So contents, since it is empty, we can use the append function, and we are stripping every line of the line break and then we're adding it into the contents. And then the question says that we have to return this array, so return contents, and before we return, let's actually print the contents of the array. So I'll say the data.txt, and yes, it does output me the whole 1D array all the way till 5 green. So it's always a good idea to see the first value and the last value. So first is 10 red and last is 5 green, and we also get 5 green. So it works perfectly fine. Alright, so the first part is done. The function needs to work for a file that contains an unknown number of lines. So with this for loop, it would work for all the lines in the file. And since we are opening and closing files, we should always have exception handling here, even if the question does not ask us. So this goes inside the try block, and then this goes except could be file processing error. So any error that happens during this code block will be reported in the except block like this. Okay, so in the next part, we are supposed to write a procedure now that will split the data, takes a 1D array as a parameter. Okay, I'm going to collapse this code, hide this because we don't need this part now. So defines split data. It is going to take a 1D array as a parameter with the identifier data array. Okay, so we'll use the word data array, and then since this would be returned from the read data, so let's also call this data array for the sake of uniformity, although it does not really matter, you can use different names. Okay, so here we get data array now, and we hide this. Okay. So the procedure declares 6 1D arrays, one array for each color, red, green, blue, orange, pink, and then the procedure accesses each string in data array. The data in each string is split into the integer. Okay, first we have to make 6 empty arrays. So we have green, blue, red. So we have red is equal to green is equal to blue, orange is equal to yellow is equal to pink is equal to, and we'll set it all to an empty list. Okay, we can do it just like this. We can use equal sign in one line, and the value on the rightmost side will get assigned to all the identifiers on the left. Okay, then the procedure will assess each string in the data array. The data in each string is split into integer and color. Okay, so if we just print the value of data array here, again we are testing it, split data array. So in the first part we are returning an array, right? We are returning the data array, so we can catch it here. We can say data array is equal to this, and then let's just run this code and see what happens. So the name of the file was ddata.txt. Okay, it is actually printing the whole array here as well in the second function, so I'll just get rid of it from this side. So we are getting the whole array. Now the question says that we have to split every index of this array into two things. So there would be a number and then there would be a color. Whatever the color would be will go into that array and will append this value in it. So now what we have to do is we have to iterate through the whole array, every item at a time, and then we split on the basis of a comma. So this would mean that this string would be converted into another array which will have 10 at index 0 and red at index 1. Right? So let's just try to do this and see how it works. So we are going to iterate through the items. So for item in data array, and let's just print the value when it has been split on a comma. Let's just see what the behavior of the program would be like. Okay, so if we see here, this was the complete 1D array with all the numbers and the colors, and then at this point I just went through the whole 1D array, and for every string in the 1D array I'm splitting it on a comma. So when I split this part on a comma, it will return me another array with the number separated and the color separated. Similarly, if I split this string into using a comma, it will get me a number and the color as an array, right? So this is what split does. Split converts a string into an array based on this separator. It could be anything. It could be a comma, it could be a space, it could be an asterisk, anything. Okay, since we are getting the data in the same format, it will always have the number at index 0 and it will always have index 1 for the color. So we can just separate these out. Okay, let's call it maybe component, or maybe the current value, or whatever you want to call it. And then from the current value, we can get the color out. So the color would be at index 1 and the score or the number is at index 0. So let's call it value. Value is at index 0, so current index 0. This will give us the integer value. And then for the color, we'll go to current index 1, which will give us the current color. So again, at index 0 we'll have 10, at index 1 we'll have red, then 20, then green, then 0 index would be 10, and then 1 index would be blue. And like this, we have extracted both the values out, but we are supposed to store them in the relevant arrays. So the question, we have done it till this one. The data in each string is split into integer and color. The integer is stored in the array that matches the color. So now we have to put simple if conditions here. For example, if the first string in data array has identified 10 and color red, so 10 will go into the array red. Okay, so we just have to use if conditions here. So we have to write, okay, so conditions would be if the color is equal to red, then we simply append the value in the red array. Red dot append, and we'll append the value there. So it would append 10 in the red array because it was the first time. Okay, if that is not the case, so if color is equal to green, then green is going to append the value. Then if that is not the case, elif, then color is equal to blue, so we append in blue. If that is not the case, we have orange, and then if that is not the case, so we do it for yellow and we append it. So we have 5 arrays now, only one left, and pink, and we append it in pink. Right, so by the time we have scanned through the whole file, we would have gotten all the 76 values, and all of them would be in different arrays depending on the colors. Okay, maybe let's, before we actually end this, we should print the value of the array. So print maybe red and orange. I'm just printing 2 random arrays just to see if they store values. So the data.txt. Okay, we do have values here. So we can see both the arrays printed here. So the first one is the red array, and then at some point onwards we'll have the array for the orange color. And also a good idea would be to manually verify. So we'll open the data file and we'll just quickly search how many times red appears. So red appears 12 times, right? One, it's already counted for us. So if we just go and instead of printing the values, let's print the value of the length of the red array. And if I run it now, it should print me 12. Okay, it's printing me 72 for some reason, which means it's adding all the values in the red array. Length of red. Okay, there is a tiny mistake here. So when we use this notation, it is going to basically create the reference to the same object here. So when we update this, any one of these arrays, it would also update all the other arrays with the same values. So that's the issue in this case. Okay, so we need to get rid of this syntax and we need to do it separately. So we have red, green, blue, but then we have orange, then we have pink, and then we have yellow, like this. So we 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, let's run this again and it should work now. Okay, works perfectly. Now the length of the red array is 12, and as we checked here, so red appears 12 times. Right, so with this, part B is done. Then in part C, they're saying that we have to write the procedure store data. So split data is done, so we have to write store data. it is taking two parameters, a 1D array data to store and a file name. So data to store and a file name f name. Okay. We have to open the text file with the file name that is passed as a parameter and append each item of data from the data to store array to a new line in the text file and use exception handling when opening and closing file. Okay, this is very simple. Try and accept. So we'll just print file processing error like this. Okay, first of all, we'll try to open the file that is given to us. Now what we have to do is we have to append every item of the array into the file. So we'll just assume that data to store will have some values. So data to store is equal to something like this, right? So random values, and we just have to write every item into a new line. So we open the file and then we have to eventually close the file. And during this process, now we have to iterate through all the values in the array. So we have to iterate through the arrays for maybe value in data to store like this. Again, this is just for example, so I'm just commenting this out. Okay, for value in the data store, what we have to do is we have to get each item from the data array to a new line in a text file. So we have to write this in a text file. So our text file handle is f. So f dot write, and then we just write val. But if we do this, it will all be written in the same line like this: 12, 55, 90, 35. So we need to bring it to the next line. So for that we have to use +/n. But this will again not work because the data that we're getting is an integer form. So we cannot join a string with an integer. So what we'll need to do is we'll need to convert this string into this value into a string, and then it should work perfectly fine. And yeah, that's the whole idea. So now in the second and in the last part, they're saying that in part D, each of the 6 colors has a blank text file where the numbers will be stored. This was given to us in the source file. So we have the files with the names of the colors that are empty. Okay, and then the procedure split data needs amending. So split data needs amending to call store data 6 times with each of the 6 colors and the name of the text file that corresponds to that color. For example, store data will be called with the red array. So store data will be called with red array and the file name text. Okay, so since we have to call these arrays 6 times now, so let's do that. We have to call store data will be called with red array. So we have store data. Data to store would be, so let's call it with the 6 color arrays. Okay, so first array color name is red, and then they're saying the name of the text file. So the name of the text file that is given to us for red is red with R capital. So all the names are in capital letters. So we have red, and then this should be, in fact this should be red and red.txt like this. Okay, now this red cannot access this red value that we have because this is a local variable inside the split data. So I'll just copy it and I'll just send it all the way up as global lists like this. And then since we are using them here, we need to globally access them. So global, we have red, we have blue, orange, pink, yellow, green. Okay, and once they get appended here, now these values will be available globally. So red, the error is gone. We can access right here the values. Similarly, stored data, we have green, then stored data we have blue, then yellow we have yellow, and for pink we have pink like this. So pink is here twice. So red, green, blue, yellow is also here twice. I think orange is the only line missing. So we have orange, and then this should be orange.txt. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, we have all the 6 values ready now. Okay. So then the question says the main program will call read data and then split data. So we have the read data, then we have called split data. Okay. And then in the final part, okay, I think So the question said that the procedures with data needs amending to call store data 6 times. Okay, we actually had to make these calls inside the split data here. Okay, so from once we are done here, yes, like this. So from inside the split data, we're supposed to call store data. Okay, so we run split data here. It creates all these arrays. Then from these calls, we go to store data. We have the array here ready, right? And then we pass in the file name and it will create all those. So from store data, we go to line 54, then we go back, line 47, we do this, line 48, we do this, so on and so forth. So they're saying read data, split data, write the code and test the code by inputting the data.txt when prompted. Okay, let's try. Hopefully it should work. So the data.txt. Okay, so it is not outputting anything because we didn't output. Take a screenshot of the output and a screenshot showing the content of a file that stores the red numbers. Okay, so let's see if we open the red file, it should have some values, and it actually does. 10, 9, 1, 76, 43, 37. And in order to verify again, we need to look at the data and let's see if it contains all the values from the red. So we have 10, 9, 1, 76, and let's see red is 10, 9, 1, 76, and then 19, 34, 38, etc. 19, 34, 38, etc. So with this, that means our program is working perfectly. We can open another file and all of them have been successfully populated. So that is the whole idea of this question, and we are done with this question as well. So we have to take a screenshot of this and we have to put this in the evidence file. So for that, we'll use the snipping tool, and then we simply take a screenshot of the file and then we put it in the evidence.